Okay, hi guys, my name's Oli Broadhead. I'm 21 years old, and I've wanted to be an explorer since I was about 7. So, over the last 3 years at university, I've gone on 3 expeditions to Norway, across India, and to Sumatra. I'm going to be talking to you about those today. So, I went to university to study biology at Bristol when I was 18, and for a variety of reasons, I took a 6-month dive into depression. But I managed to recover towards the end of that first year, and I scraped through my final exams. I got 40%. That's exactly the grade boundary to not retake. So I was relieved, but I also needed to escape. So I went home and I booked a flight to Norway. I'd come up with this idea. I wanted to cycle from the far south all the way up to the Arctic Circle. And this was a really stupid idea. Because I don't cycle. And because I'd given myself 24 hours until the flight. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm desperately trying to plan this route. I've just finished packing. I actually gave up planning that route because I realized I was going to the Arctic and it's north and you can just take a compass. It's easy. Next thing I know, I'm in Norway. I have a borrowed bike, 25 kilograms on it, and it's got a broken rear brake. But I set off, first day, great. Second day, bit less great. Third day, I got lost, did 80 kilometers in the wrong direction. It was raining constantly, and I finished with 2 punctures. And it went on like this. One day, I would have a baby moose outside my tent in the morning. The next day, it would hail for 8 hours. The next day, I would have lunch up a mountain, and the next, I would cry in my tent because I hadn't talked to anyone but a moose in a week. My mate Nico, the guy who lent me the bike, came out 5 days before the end, and after a month, we reached the Arctic Circle. We arrived past midnight. That's the winter sun. Summer solstice. 24-hour daylight. That photo is at 1 in the morning. It was incredible. And the next year at uni went much better because I wasn't freaking out about what I was doing with my life. I was planning my next expedition. I'd come up with this idea that I wanted to walk across India. And that's much bigger. That was going to take 3 months. And I'd spent 3 weeks alone in Norway and almost gone completely insane. So I put an advert on Facebook. Does anyone want to join me? And this guy, Angus, said yes. Because he thought it would look good on his CV. We went very light. We have those packs, 45-liter bags. They weigh 7 kilograms. As you can see, no tent. We were eating by the roadside, eating rice cakes. Those cost 20 pence. We were living on 70p each a day. This is our route. Once again, I was avoiding planning a route, so we just followed a river, the Kaveri River. It's the southernmost of the great sacred rivers in India. Someone once asked me, if you're so bad at route planning, how come you get lost all the time? My reply is, if you don't plan a route, it's impossible to get lost. We started in the state of Tamil Nadu at the end of a 4-year drought. That is a river mouth. That's a bridge in the background. It was completely dry. It was 40 degrees in the day. 3 days in, I got heat stroke. So we switched to walking at night. Great idea. 2 weeks later, we're coming down through these boulder fields. And Angus taps me on the shoulder, points behind me, and ooh, there's a leopard. So for the next hour, we were followed down through these boulders until we got to the next village where we climbed onto a roof. And we spent the night there. Leopard activity did not stop there. This route has a fairly obvious kink in it. That's not a straight way to walk across a country. We were trying to cross this mountain pass up to Mysore, and just before we arrived, there was 2 fatal leopard attacks. This leopard was not caught, and so we switched from a 100-kilometer mountain route to a 400-kilometer detour, which took us through away from beautiful rural India, the river that did now, thankfully, have water in it, and into Bangalore. And Bangalore is a 60-kilometer wide city. It took us 5 days to walk across because we were walking in this. It was a nightmare. They don't have catalytic converters on the cars in India, so it's just soot coming out the back. You're wiping it off you at the end of the day, and we are still sleeping rough at this point. But from here, it got much easier. We moved up into elephant forest. It's high altitude, it's lovely, it's much cooler. That is an elephant footprint on our first day out of Bangalore. The night after this photo was taken, we were setting up our camp at the corner of a field. In the distance, we could see the tree line. And we were just going to sleep when these farmers come over. And they're like, oh, are you sleeping here? And we're like, oh, so, sorry, we can move on. Like, we can find a different field if this is an issue. He's like, no, my friend, of course not. You're very welcome, stay here. I just wanted to let you know that I came down last Tuesday at 6 in the morning, and tiger had killed one of my water buffalo there. So we kept walking, and we didn't find a village this time, but what we did find was a bus shelter, an Indian bus shelter. They're brilliant. They're concrete, 15-foot tall, tiger-proof. They're also wonderful on top. You've got a lovely little ledge, as Angus with his phone, and you get a 5-star hotel view from the top of an Indian bus shelter. And you get fruit bats in the morning. From here, we moved up into the Western Ghats. It's a mountain range on the west coast. The monsoon hit at this point. How do you sleep outside with no tent in a monsoon? You don't. You go mad. And you get eaten by leeches. But after 2 weeks of this, we did reach Kasaragod. It's a coastal town on the Arabian Sea, and we'd walked across India. It took us just over 2 months in total. India, we faced some fairly sketchy moments, some moments when there wasn't anyone we could particularly ask for help, and there were fairly serious consequences to making the right call in those situations. And what I try to remember when I'm back in the UK is that 90% of the stuff that was happening in my third year at uni with units and such like, if I fail one of those, it's not really a big issue. I'm not going to end up on the street. I can ask my tutor for help. It's like climbing with a rope versus climbing without a rope. The point isn't that you can fail, so you should fail. It's that you'll climb much better with the rope because you can push yourself right to the limit of your ability. And it's no big deal if you do mess up. And most people don't have that safety net. So I try to take it as some sort of responsibility I have to try and push myself because I can afford to take those risks. So Norway was just an adventure. India, we combined adventure with complete submersion in a foreign culture for 3 months. I wanted to bring in science, so my girlfriend, who's a biologist, and I decided we would go to Sumatra and we would conduct a biological survey. We got in contact with local researchers, and they said, oh, you've got to go to this valley. We've been looking at it for ages. It's 40 kilometers long. We think there's orangutans there. No one's ever been there. Absolutely unspoiled, pristine, no research. We were like, brilliant. Started trying to get permits. 2 months of just constantly being denied. We flew out with no permits. When we got there, bad news. We got denied when we arrived, and the valley had been logged and it had been poached. The officials were in on this, and that's why we were being refused research permits. So we went to plan B. A friend of a friend was making first ascents of mountains in the province of Aceh. So a bit about Aceh. It had come out of a civil war 30 years long in 2005. The civil war only ended because of how many people died in the 2004 tsunami. Because of this, the mountains are unclimbed. Because of this, the forests are still pristine. So we came up with this plan with Saeed and Roy. What we would do is we'd walk out to an unclimbed mountain, climb it, and then come back. And on the way in, we'd record data. On the way out, we would repeat our data. So we set off. Unlike India, you've got to carry everything in because we're in completely isolated jungle. We would bury it as we went. If you wonder how you find a buried bag in a rainforest, you don't always. We never saw that bag again. So we're carrying 25-kilogram packs each, wading upriver for the first 3 days. It only gets really difficult when you move off-river. This is the sort of terrain you're in. It's crawling more than walking. It's horrible. You have to cut as you go. Sort of think it's just a giant bramble patch. So machetes, you're hacking through this stuff. It's rattan. It's what conservatory furniture is made of, but that's the baby stuff. This is the real deal. It's as thick as your thumb. It's usually at eye level. And I guarantee if you slip in the mud and you reach out to grab a nice handy branch, it will be this stuff. Water's another big issue. It rains a lot in the rainforest, but there's a lot of leaf litter, so it drains away almost immediately, and it's all sucked up by all the trees. So you dig for water. The one on this side is our drinking water, that side is our kerosene for our camping fuel. So all of this, we were doing 11 hours a day, and we were walking about 2.5 kilometers, so that's some idea. So all of this doesn't put you in a very good mood to do data collection, but we did try, and what we did find was absolutely fantastic. We found, I think, over 50 bird species just in the first week. Also, by this point, about a week in, we were in areas where even the village hunters aren't going. So if we go in a cave, no one's ever been there before. If we see monkeys, they'll all freak out and come and stare at us for an hour because those monkeys haven't seen humans before. Absolutely fantastic. And after 10 days, we arrived at base camp, where we were setting up at the base of Mount Curragh. Herein lay a problem. We had planned for an equatorial country at low altitude. So we were wearing, shirts, shorts, no tent, no real rain gear. And base camp's 2,500 meters. It was 5 degrees in the day. I remember when I took this photo, I'd just come out in the morning, I find Roy by the fire. I was like, "How'd you sleep last night?" And he says, "I didn't. I sat and prayed for morning." And that was how it was going to be for the next week. So, the biggest issue, our maps. Our maps of the area were completely inaccurate, it turned out. We only realized that after about 10 days. They were off by a few hundred meters. So we'd expected a ridge going up to the peak of a 3,080-meter unclimbed mountain. What we got was a series of vertical faces. We couldn't do it. We tried to find an alternate route. Whilst we were doing this, Roy, well, it was just an awkward accident. He was going to whack a tree trunk with his machete, and it wasn't a tree trunk, it was a boulder with moss on it, and it whacked back up at him, and it kind of got his finger pretty badly. Roy was then stuck at camp, and actually a moment on this, Roy is devout Muslim, and he, despite this, had agreed to come with us, even though it was the middle of Ramadan, so he wasn't eating or drinking in the day, he wasn't taking painkillers in the day. I was very impressed. He was sort of curled up by the fire, meditating. But Saeed, Iris, and myself, we decided to climb a neighboring mountain, Mount Lombo. It's 3,050 meters. This mountain is not unclimbed. We knew it had been climbed before by colonial Dutch during the Dutch-Achinese War, almost 100 years ago. And when we got to the top, we dug down to about a foot of moss, and we found this. This is a concrete slab left by Dutch soldiers. It says March the 31st, 1931, and we will have been the first people to have found that since they were there almost 100 years ago. It's fantastic. What was more fantastic was the view. That is 650 square kilometers of pristine rainforest. And what's even more brilliant about this, for me, was that we just crawled on our hands and knees and through thorns and everything under the canopy. You don't see this when you're in a rainforest. You see all this beautiful BBC footage. When you're actually there, it's dark and it's cold and it's wet and it's horrible. So you need to be up high, and suddenly this just falls away in front of you, and it's fantastic. There were gibbons calling up in the mountain below. It was also the first time I'd got signal in a week. I missed graduation to go to Sumatra, and my brother had texted me, smiley face 21 / sad face. Brexit. And I don't care what your political persuasion is, but my girlfriend Iris, who is with me, she's from Austria, and it was not fun to break that to her. We continued for another month. We walked down to the Indian Ocean. We were walking still through Aceh, and just a tiny bit more in Aceh. Aceh is 98% Muslim. It has Sharia law, and like I say, it just came out of a civil war in 2005. I was genuinely scared before I went there. I ended up being a bit ashamed of how scared I was because it was the friendliest place I've ever been. Once we came out of the jungle, we had 3 weeks where every single night, every village we arrived at, we'd be invited into someone's home, we'd be given food, and we'd be welcomed into their family. It was 100% hospitality, and it was wonderful. For me, waking up on an expedition, every single day, I'm waking up with a purpose. And every minute of that day is purposeful because I'm working towards that purpose, even if I'm just suffering along, staggering along. As long as I keep moving, I'm just getting closer to that goal. And that makes you happy. Doesn't matter how horrible it is, you've just got this general background feeling of accomplishment, and it's wonderful. So for me, it's not about, when we talk about purpose, it's not about finding some big life goal. What's my overwhelming life purpose that I aim towards? It's like this misty thing off in the distance. No, it's about finding something that you can do every single day that gives you a sense of purpose and a sense of accomplishment, and that's what makes me happy. But I don't know what will make you happy, so I'm going to leave that with you, and for now, I'm just going to keep going on expeditions. Thank you very much.